Okay. So, don't believe in ghosts. Don't get me wrong. If I am in a scary, dark place, I'm absolutely terrified of ghosts. But if you asked me to bet on whether or not I thought they existed, I would say no. But there were a few things that happened that are interesting. I wouldn't even say they're unexplainable. They're probably 100% explainable. Number one, this is when I was a little kid, so chances are it's not reliable by any means, and I was probably just skitzing myself out. But in my old house, which by the way, I need to turn that off. But in my old house, which my grandfather built, so like it was brand new. I didn't live in it when it was brand new, but it was brand new at some point, like when my mom was a kid. All the time in the shower in the dark, I would see a hooded figure, but not like hooded like a demon. I wouldn't explain it as a demon. It gave me fisherman vibes, just like that figure. And then, so when I was working at an adult shop a couple years ago, not a couple, at this point it's several years ago, but I was working at an adult shop, and it was built maybe in the 70s. It was like an older building. Not older by some standards, but it was an older building. And we always worked alone. So you didn't have anyone else ever there on shift with you. You only basically got to see people when you were training and then when you were switching shifts. And we had to paint the bathrooms because we worked alone. Minimum wage job, you know, they make you do the most. You know how it is. So I had always gotten like creepy vibes in this building, but like I'm also a huge scaredy cat and extremely, extremely paranoid. Like whenever I was a kid, there'd be nights where I was like in a full-blown panic because I just felt bad vibes. So I never really thought much about it. And then I was in the bathroom doing some painting. There wasn't really customers. And then I heard, like really, really loud church hymns that were just really overwhelming for like a second. It was just like that, like really freaking loud, and like just for like a second, like took over the whole bathroom. I'm really hoping that was like the bathroom fan, but if it was, then something turned on the bathroom fan. And I don't know why it would only turn on for a second, like full blast. But I literally sat outside of the building and would only go in when there was customers. And then, I guess this one happened like before the story I just told. I was in a program, we'll call it, when I was younger, and we did group therapy, and there was this new girl that came in, and I don't know why, but when we were going around the room, like talking about like what we're there for, basically, I just like looked at her and like could guess every single thing like in my head that was gonna come out of her mouth. Like every single thing. And it was really, really bizarre. And so I'm like, whoa, mind reader abilities. I'm going to do that with everybody else in the room. Didn't work with anybody else. It just worked that one time with her. Literally everything she was going to say, I like said it in my head first, and then it came out of her mouth. And that was wild because I don't know how you do that. Maybe it was predictable. Maybe it was just generic stuff. I don't know. But it was something, and it was notable. And then later, that girl ended up going to my college, and I ended up being roommates with her for a little bit. So that's interesting. I wonder if my brain was, like, linking with her because, like, she was going to be in my future in one way or another. There is all sorts of crusty dustiness on my face. Too bad. Next thing that happened. So my mom used to live next to an abandoned textile mill, and it is no longer there, I guess, thankfully, but it was really cool to go explore. And her driveway out back of her house, it like was right out front of this textile mill. And this is like a dilapidated, like floors falling through old textile mill. So when I used to have friends come over and we were like hanging outside or doing whatever, like they could park their cars there. So I used to have a lot of people parked there because the driveway was kind of big, because I guess it was like an old driveway for the textile mill. So one night, me and my best friend were just sitting in the car. There's also, by the way, it's not like a huge patch of woods, but there's woods that like go, like there's a retaining wall, and there's just like woods up a giant hill. Which is kind of creepy because you never know if things are gonna be in the woods. So me and my best friend are sitting in their car, and we're just like talking, and we hear like scratches on the door, and we both like hear things, so we're both not panicking at this point, but my face is very expressive, just like, oh my god, like I'm just making this up. And then they turn around, look at me in my face, and I'm like, and they're like, oh, wasn't in our heads. So just like locks all the doors and drives out of there so fast because it was just freaking creepy. Could have been a raccoon. Don't know. Could have been a raccoon. Maybe. Now, even though I said it's woods, this is not a rural area. There's still raccoons, of course, but it's not a rural area by any means. My mom's house is like touching a busy road with like this wooded hill behind her house. And then I guess my next stories are gonna be about Randonautica. I'm gonna do a really bad job at telling this story, honestly, because I have a horrible memory. I didn't even remember the scratching. Wow, there was purple on this brush and I'm into it. I didn't even remember that scratching until I saw my best friend the other day, and they were like, remember when this happened? And I was like, oh shit, that did happen. Randonautica no longer works, if you were curious. Maybe never worked. It's basically an app that tells you where there's high points of energy, voids of energy, or like a cluster of a combination of the two. From what I gather, it works off of some quantum computer in Australia, apparently. But I was randonauting with my friend Major, and it just kept taking us to some weird spots, but there was like consistencies. So first thing when we went is it just took us to like this creepy house on a cul-de-sac. It was the only house on the cul-de-sac that was like rundown. All the rest were nice. This one was like rundown and the creepiest. And the energy was just off. Like we could feel something weird there. And the garage light was on. Like there's only one glowing orange light in the house, which interesting. It was like a rancher, and the garage was like off one side of it, like furthest back from the cul-de-sac, if that makes any sense. And as we're driving away, I'm driving the car, we just both go, whoa, at the same time, because like you could feel the energy shift. So we decided to do it again. And it takes us to another house. So it gives you a radius of like how big the area is going to be, like where the start point is. Well, we walked on the street at the start point. What was it? We wanted to, the intentions, this is where it's going to get bad. My memory sucks. Pretty much like we wanted enlightenment of some sort. And there was like this church that we passed a bunch of times, but it had like some inspirational sign that was like, keep looking up. I don't even fucking remember. It was something like that. It was interesting. And then we go to the house that it took us to, and it doesn't look anything like the Google Maps pictures because it was like recently renovated. I don't know if that's significant anyway, but it was different. It had a sign out front, for, like, it was still for sale. But creepy thing about it is also a light on. Like, up in the top floor of one of the rooms, a light was on. And it was that same, like, dingy orange light, which is just creepy. Like, made my hair stand on end. It was freaking creepy. So I was randonauting, just finding spots and like saving them, because you can like save the location, not on the thing, but like it lets you pull them up on Google Maps and you can like save them. So I was doing that, and when I was with my friend Major, I was like, I want to find my person. That was my intention. It gave me this house. This house gave me vibes. So I wanted to go to this house, but it was late and I'm kind of a chicken when it comes to driving. I like run this idea past my cousin and I'm like, do you want to do this thing? It seems like it works. It's like spoopy. You want to go? And she's like, yeah, we can do that. And we go to the house. Outside of the house, there was a trash can with trash in it, but unrotted flowers perfectly sticking out of one of the trash cans. Like, it's almost like a vase. Like, they're not giant flowers, just there happened to be enough trash and these flowers were sat out top. Like, now that's significant to me. You might think like trash can with trash flowers. I like dumpster diving. I like it a lot. So that's exactly the way to get my attention. Universe is trash. And right as I'm being like, oh my God, there's flowers, isn't that odd? My cousin goes, oh my God, he left you flowers. Cause like I told her what my intentions were. And I was like, no way. So I took one of the flowers. Also, there was painted baby's breath in there. So like even the stem was painted, which I've never seen before. And they were painted like blue, which is my favorite color. It's interesting. And then I'm like on a mission to figure out who lives in this house. Like a complete and utter creep. No concern for privacy reasons, because at this point I cannot remember the last name I was looking for or anything. But there's like this family. It's only one family that lives in the house. And they've lived there, I don't know, like generationally. And I checked online to see if it was accurate. Like I Googled my mom's house and it had my older sister's name and my mom's name. And I was like, all right, this is probably legit. So I start looking on Facebook, like a complete and utter creep, trying to stalk these people and figure out who they are. And I'm on this like crazy mission. And while I'm on my mission, I stop and see this guy, and he's in my like mutual friends with one of these people that I find. So like I'm friends with him. His picture, I mean, it's not like a thirst trap picture. This is not a picture that you would stop and be like, ooh, look at him. But there's two dudes in this picture. And I'm like, please be the one on the right. And I'm just like, fuck it. I'll message this person. We're friends. I don't know why. The picture like grabbed my attention so heavily. Turns out it was the person on the right. And he'd already tried talking to me several times. So I message him and I'm like, I'm on this crazy mission. Da-da-da-da-da. And it turns out my dad is friends with his dad's girlfriend. And also, my ex had the same friend group, I guess, as he does. And we've run into each other 1,000 times in person. So as we're starting to date, I have like all these memories flooding back. Like, oh my God, you were at the bar this one night. We never like formally met. I did not remember him or anything when I first like hung out with him. It just like slowly came back. Like these vague memories. And now he's my boyfriend. So, kind of feel like Randonautica works. Asking for my person from Randonautica, it could not have gotten closer with my boyfriend. We basically had like the same childhood. And we don't have the best parents. Like, I kind of like people who have a similar childhood to me, because it was not good. And we relate in a lot of different ways with that. And he's absolutely fucking nuts. So that's good and bad. Dealing with yourself is good and bad. Hold on, I need a mouth. Okay. Last story. Happened recently. Our most recent camping trip. So we go camping in the same woods a lot. And really, aside from bears, nothing scary's really happened there. It was either our first or our second night out there. And I'm sleeping in the tent. And all of a sudden, I'm in the middle of a dream. But I hear like, in my ear. Insane rambling. And I shoot my head up. I'm like right out of my sleep. But I figure I'm dreaming because I've had a dream before where basically I thought I lost my mind. I was sitting, it was like all the things that make me the most anxious, and being in situations that make me anxious, I messed up my nose and it doesn't matter. And then there was this white rabbit. It's like it was like 3 feet long with like a human face, but flat. Like the nose wasn't pronounced the way that a human nose was. And I'm like sitting on this sidewalk. I turn around. There's this humanoid rabbit doing this like psychotic mumbling. And I just like freeze, turn around. And I remember my brain just went, oh my God, you lost it. And this dream caused me a lot of anxiety. So at first I'm like, oh, it's my dream. I've literally heard that psychotic rambling like in my dream. It's fine. Like I'm awake now, my head's up. I'm like, I woke up and went, babe, really fast to my boyfriend, and then just sat there and listened. And then I hear it like further away from the tent. Like it's getting further away from the freaking tent. And then I'm like, shit. Like it wasn't in my dream. Because now I'm fully awake, my head's been up, and then, I mean, what are you gonna do? You're out in the woods, so, I mean, you're not gonna, like, run anywhere, you're kind of stuck in a tent. Oh, I just jumped. So I literally curled up on my boyfriend and just put the blankets over my head and went to sleep, and I was fine. And I'm hoping that was some sort of, like, baby bear or something. The next day, we went to, like, this fair. And when we came back, our lights were gone and our water was gone. And we didn't know what happened. I was terrified someone came along and like took them, which means like probably stuff's missing from our tent, but nothing was missing out of our tent. And then the next day we actually found the lights and they had giant bite holes in them. So it was a bear. And our camping bin, there were hamburger buns in there, and this thing had chewed on the, like, it's a big plastic bin. I think people call them totes. Yeah. So a bear was there. So I'm just really hoping that this wasn't that giant white rabbit from my dream, and instead it was a bear. A baby bear babbling or something. And that's everything that's ever happened to me. Because, yeah.